The Muslim community around the world celebrates the end of Ramadan with the war in Gaza in mind.
The hospitality industry signs up to save water as drought conditions persist in the French Eastern Pyrenees.
A major reform of the EU migration policy was approved by the European Parliament on Wednesday in Brussels, after a vote marked by protests inside and outside the hemicycle. All the 5 files included in the Pact on Migration and Asylum got the green light, even if some by a narrow margin.
Need to be able to vote with serenity.
The new rules introduce more solidarity among member states, but also more controls at the borders and more effective and swift asylum procedures that raise questions about migrants' fundamental rights. The rapporteurs defend a general compromise difficult to find, but overall acceptable.
The rules are there, they now need to be implemented. And we also have ensured that there is access for NGOs, for lawyers to give advice. So we have a number of safeguards. The question, like always already in the past, is do we ensure that everything is implemented? That will be the task for the next mandate.
The pact was supported by the 3 largest groups of the parliament, even with some defections, while both far-right and radical left voted against. The left group organized a rally in front of the parliament to protest against the, quote, death of the right to asylum. 161 civil society organizations call on MEPs to vote down the migration pact, and some activists even managed to make it into the plenary chamber and interrupt the voting session. One of the most contentious issues is the border procedure, a faster way to scrutinize certain categories of asylum seekers. Its rapporteur rejects the accusations.
Le Parlement européen s'est assuré de l'intégration de mesures qui permettaient d'assurer le respect de la Convention des droits de l'homme, c'est-à-dire les bonnes conditions d'accueil et, par exemple pour les enfants, le droit à la scolarité, à la bienveillance, à la protection, et également ceux de la Convention de Genève, c'est-à-dire que l'examen soit individuel.
The different parts of the pact will now have to be approved also by the member states, which could happen before the end of the month. Against the backdrop of war and extreme deprivation, Muslims in Gaza have been celebrating Eid al-Fitr, marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan. In camps of the internally displaced, children queued to have their faces painted and receive whatever treats were available, as vast vital food supplies and other aid continued to be parachuted into the Palestinian territory, still under siege by Israeli forces. But for thousands who have lost loved ones, it's not a time for celebration.
العيد اللي فات كانوا بزوروني. العيد هذا أنا أجيت أزورهم. أجيت أزور جوز بنتي وبنتي وحفيدي وعيل بحالها. إيش بدك إياني أحكي يما؟ إيش بدك إياني أقول؟ أجيت أزور عيل بحالها 11 نفر. 11 نفر هان.
In Europe, the contrast could not be more stark. At lavish feasts in Germany and elsewhere, Muslims were mindful of the situations in Gaza.
Das ist natürlich was schlimm, was in Gaza passiert, auch davor, was in Israel passiert war. Aber nichtsdestotrotz, es ist eine Feier, eine große Feier, wo die Kinder natürlich auch hoffen, dass es Geschenke gibt, dass es Feierlichkeiten gibt. Aber im Herzen, im Hintergrund und natürlich im Hinterkopf hat man immer natürlich die Bilder.
Across Europe and in Muslim communities around the world, prayers were offered for an end to the war in Gaza that has left some 33,000 people dead. It was triggered by Hamas's brutal raid on Israel, in which around 1,200 Israelis were killed and 250 people abducted.
The European Union General Court has ruled in favour of 2 of Russia's wealthiest businessmen who challenged sanctions imposed on them by the EU. Mikhail Friedman and Peter Avon had been sanctioned over their alleged roles in Russia's war with Ukraine. The court ruled there was a lack of evidence to justify the decision. The ruling applies to the period from February 2022 to March 2023. The men are appealing the period after March in a separate case. The billionaires are major shareholders of Alpha Group, one of Russia's largest privately owned investment groups. Both left their positions with Alpha in March 2022. The judgment comes amid calls to use oligarchs' seized assets to fund Ukraine's defence. There are more than 1,700 individuals and 400 businesses on the EU's Russia sanctions list, which includes travel bans. While Friedman and Avon reportedly described the court's decision as being of the utmost significance, the widow of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny wrote of her disappointment in the court's decision, posting on X that neither man had spoken out against the war or made any efforts to stop it. She said they simply hired expensive lawyers and influential lobbyists. The court's ruling can be appealed by other European institutions in the European Court of Justice. The timeframe to appeal is less than 3 months.
More than double the amount of migrants have arrived in Greece compared to the same timeframe last year. One island in southern Greece is seeing a recent influx of migrants from North Africa.
Πάντα έχω παραπάνω αλεύρι, γιατί αν έρθουν μετανάστες, τι θα φάνε. It's a river of people that they are desperate looking to leave their countries.
Local officials claim 9 million migrants are trying to make their way to Greece. Locals were told the number could rise to 20 million if conditions worsen.
Ζήσει όλο αυτόν τον κόσμο. Ό,τι χρήματα και να βοηθάει η Ευρώπη. Δεν γίνεται.
Countries along the Mediterranean are feeling the increasing number of migrants heading towards Europe the most.
Universal Hall in Skopje, North Macedonia, has sustained damage following a fire. No casualties were recorded, but the building suffered considerable harm. Emergency services contained the blaze immediately. The landmark building is a symbol of international solidarity, built with funds from 36 countries following a disastrous earthquake in 1963. An inquiry into the fire's cause has been launched, thought to stem from an electrical system not renovated in 50 years. Russia's second attempt to test launch a new heavy-lift rocket from its Far Eastern space complex was aborted on Wednesday. The rocket previously attempted to launch on Tuesday, which also failed last minute. State news agency RIA Novosti said the cause of the failure was the pressurization of the oxidizer tank. The launch was the fourth for the Angara A5, a heavy-lift rocket designed to replace Soviet-designed Proton rockets.
Faced with a persistent drought, the hospitality industry in the French Eastern Pyrenees is making some big changes. New hotels built over the next 6 years will be designed to save and reuse water, and there'll be fewer bathtubs.
Donc ici, on a une suite dans laquelle nous avons à la fois la douche à l'italienne et la baignoire, dans laquelle on s'engage à retirer le bouchon à partir de demain.
Even water used for swimming pool maintenance will be reused.
Lors du nettoyage du filtre, l'eau partait directement dans le réseau d'eau pluviale et dès demain, il sera récupéré dans un bac dans le local technique et nous l'utiliserons à la fois pour les plantes, pour nettoyer tous les abords de cette piscine.
The region has been in drought for the past 3 years. The soil is dry and so are the rivers. Tourism operators have signed a charter containing around 30 conservation measures.
Les nouveaux hôtels qui se construisent et qui vont se construire jusqu'en 2030 vont mettre en place, c'est dans cette charte, des systèmes de récupération des eaux de douche pour mettre dans les WC. Eh bien oui, on arrête de tirer la chasse d'eau avec de l'eau potable.
The measures go as far to include a ban on bath plugs and ice buckets.
A woman has broken a world record by rope climbing up to the second floor of the Eiffel Tower in just 18 minutes. Anouk Garnier is an obstacle world champion who trained a year prior to complete the task. In doing so, she has raised money for charity League Against Cancer. The height of 110 meters breaks both men's and women's world records. Garnier will carry the Olympic torch for France in the ceremony that will take place in May.
Record-breaking luxury timepieces will be on display to the public this weekend. Watchmakers are showcasing their most luxurious creations in Geneva this week at the Watches and Wonders Fair.
This year, we are looking for a lot of records, and we have seen the most complicated watch in the world, the Vacheron Constantin pocket watch with 63 components, 5.5 centimeter thick, and I just would like to present you the thinnest watch on the fair today, which is this watch here.
But can people really afford luxury Swiss watches? One CEO says it is about identifying the right watch at the right price point.
The price range, which we consider very important in the market right now, is in between 1,000 and 3,000, where the end consumer are looking for a nice, elegant, and refined timepieces. And there is a high demand for this price segment.
The doors to the fair will be open to the general public for 3 days. They open this Saturday and close on Monday.